This is Leisha Holmes and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast. And I'm really excited to introduce to our global community today somebody who I've had the pleasure of speaking to on many occasions, some of whom you may be aware of through watching on LinkedIn. They're an award-winning business, and this is somebody who I think will give so much advice to whether you're a recruiter who's starting their recruitment journey, but also to fellow leaders as well, looking to elevate and possibly emulate this amazing business. This is Kieran Gilbert, and he's Director of Operations at the phenomenal Energize Group. Welcome to you today, Kieran. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's very nice to have a fellow Mancunian on, a fellow Northerner, because I seem to have all these global guests, and then when I get somebody on who's based in Manchester, well, you're in Knutsford, but you know, technically still the Northwest. Now, obviously, I know who you are, but for those who are new to potentially looking at Energize Group as a business and to you individually, tell us a little bit of a bio about the business and you.
Okay, good. So we're a global staffing business in the digital and technology space. So we've been based out of Didsbury since our inception. We've got offices now in California, Dallas, and Madrid. So we've gone through some decent growth recently. We've done kind of what many recruitment businesses do, the 0 to 50s, a bit of a slog. Took us quite a while to get there. The 50 to nearly 100, we did in no time at all. So it's really the last 2 or 3 years where it's got really exciting for us. We've achieved 41% compound annual growth, and we've really moved the business forward, reasonably quickly, actually.
Well, I'm sure we're going to cover a lot of those, but we're going to try and unpick that as succinctly as we can, because I'm just sat here going, wow, I mean, that's impressive. And I totally feel your pain point on behalf of so many of my clients, of which you're one, who really do struggle with that 0 to 50. I mean, actually, they always say that the magic number is 20, that sort of starting out. We get so many of our listeners who are in that scale up mode, going from kind of boutique lifestyle business, sort of cash cow business, to wanting to actually have something meaningful. So if you can, if it is possible, how do you go from that painful starting growth point to actually achieving consistent growth?
Oh yeah, it's a very, very good question. And I think we didn't have a number of the key components in place. We were up and down, and we didn't really know our markets. The talent that we recruited, we didn't really kind of have that identity. At that point, our training probably wasn't fit for purpose, albeit there were some really good elements of it. And it was, the key components we just didn't get right for a while. And we worked really hard, and there was a turning point actually where we kind of stripped it all back and thought, right, what do we need to do here? Relaunched our vision. Had a great purpose underpinned by some really impactful values, and then just put all the pieces together, and it just come together. And look, it's not perfect, and it hasn't been perfect, throughout the whole journey, and we still make mistakes, of course, but overall we're comfortable with our framework. And getting to 50 was tricky. I remember speaking, I think it was the owner of Oliver James in a pub in the Met in Didsbury years ago on a Friday. And he said to me, once you get to 50, it's easy. And that always stuck in my head. And it wasn't easy, but we got to 50. It was a lot easier.
Easier. Yeah. Was that Ollie or Jimmy?
Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy,
well, they know what they're talking about. Let's face it.
It was that they used to, a lot of the Oliver James lot used to go to the Met every Friday, and it's in the days where I was free and single and knocking about Didsbury quite a lot.
You're not allowed to anymore. No, definitely not.
No, my life is so. But yeah, that comment always stuck with me.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. And I think you use a key word there, which is framework. And I think, if you sort of strip back a business and understand what your core values are as a business owner, we do have quite a lot of coaches and, people who've sold and scaled and sold their businesses that come on the pod. And we recently have had a couple of people on that, not dissimilar to that. And they all conclude exactly what you felt and went through. That's your starting point. It's understanding what's your mission, understanding your purpose, understanding your values, and then hiring people with those shared values. But I know we're going to come on to the DEI piece, because I think it's really important not to deviate off that. So, I mean, you obviously, you've been part of this journey, like you say, right from the start, which I think puts you in a very unique sort of cohort of people that haven't jumped around, haven't, you know, dare I use the negative term, job hop, but you know, you haven't done the sort of recruitment career, you know, journey that a lot of people go on. You've stayed with the same business. So what is it about the business that's ensured that you've stayed and that you've grown with the business? And why can't more companies achieve that level of tenure, do you think? So it's twofold, really.
Yeah, I mean, good question. One I get asked quite a lot, being in my 17th year, which is,
Wow.
I think I worked out the other day. I think I did the calculation, 42% of my life, which I'm not sure is a good or a bad thing. I'm going to say a good thing. So, look, I think it's you know, that there are a number of things. I think we've always tried to have a point of difference, our agency. So service is a big one, you know. So what are we here to do? We're not just here to make money or recruiters to make money. We've actually got a bit of a higher purpose. We want to create and provide great service, and working with a set of authentic values and a purpose that we live and breathe every day. So, you know, for me, that's really, really important. And I think one thing, and certainly post-COVID, is that the whole flexibility and autonomy piece, and that links into, you know, one of the key parts of motivation and the trust that you need. And you know, I've got that in abundance, and certainly with my lifestyle, 2 young kids, my wife is very focused on her career. I'm really passionate about her career as well. And, you know, I've got the trust to be able to do my job, but also pick my kids up twice a week and go to sports days. And the fact that I've got that trust and that relationship with my CEO is, you know, makes me want to stay. And it's like, why would I go elsewhere? And it's been very good to me. I've had some challenges in my career. I've had some, you know, some quite bad health scares and time off, and, you know, all of these things all stick with me, and I've got that emotional bond with that. And we're very big on that, you know, and that's not just me, that is our staff, that is how we look after our people, how we, you know, we've got an Energize fund for people who are struggling financially. Now, that kind of thing. And I think that's quite important. And it's not just you know, in our business, we kind of buck the trend a little bit. There's a few people in that 10 to 15 year group, a lot of people in that in the 5 to 10 year group. We used to have a 5-year club every time someone hit 5 years, and we can't do that anymore because so many people hit it. So we just have to
amazing.
do it
10 years.
So we buck the trend a little bit, and I think to answer the other bit of your question is that, you know, why is it rare in the industry? And I think it's a shame that it is quite rare in the industry. You know, people leave companies because of their manager, lack of career advancement, lack of flexibility, all of these things. And we've tried to look at those core things and make sure that we're kind of living those and helping our guys those, and making sure that we're, you know, we've got that as part of our kind of toolbox, if you like. So
no, I do love that. And I think, you know, there's an element of law of attraction, actually. So if you're kind of the pinnacle of, you know, what a good employee looks like, but you're also in a leadership role, you're going to naturally attract those sorts of people into the business, and therefore almost empathize, I guess, but see, you know, really truly see and create pathways that, you know, if they've got an issue, a health scare or family issues or whatever it might be, they know they can come and talk to you. And I do think that your tenure is actually, from what you've just said there, that's remarkable, because recruitment is notorious with poor attrition. And I think my day job, obviously, as you know, is a rec to rec, and I think my job is to protect and navigate the right people into our industry, through the industry when they're moving on. And the fact is, people actually don't leave companies. It's really old cliche, but they leave leaders. That's who they leave. And it's lack of leadership that they leave. It's not leadership, it's lack of.
Yeah, I agree. And look, this is something that now we've got so many more managers that we're continually working on, because when you're a small management team, it's easy to control. But when you've got 25 different managers in the business now, it's a lot more difficult. And now we talk a little bit about this, you know, when we come on to the DE&I bit, but I think it's creating that psychological safety, and we try and do that. So if there are issues, if there are problems, you know, people feel like they can approach us as employees, and we've got systems and frameworks and channels in place where people can feel comfortable doing that. That's really important, and something we're continually reviewing as well, to make sure it's in place.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it doesn't get talked about enough. Feeling safe and knowing that you are safe to talk to somebody at work about something where in another place you would be prejudiced. You know, you just wouldn't feel secure, whether it's talking about sexuality, it's talking about a health issue, talking about religious aspect, whatever it might be. And I know we're going to come on to the DEI piece, but I think it's a common misconception that you've got a dichotomy that you can't be this successful sales business, which you are, go through scale and still look after people. I think we need to, between us, let's blow up this concept that you can't be all of it, because you can.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more. And it's not easy because you're trying to combine quite a difficult job, which requires a lot of characteristics that lend itself to you know, to a certain way of working, but not in every way, but in some ways. And you have to balance that with the empathy and all the other things that's important. So getting the balance is challenging, but it's not impossible, and that's what we try and do.
I think to me, if you're hiring new people into the recruitment industry, you need equal quantities of fortitude and kindness. And I think those two main traits combined create the most incredible force of nature to make things happen for people, but you do it with real compassion and kindness. That's just my view on things. So we absolutely, you know, for anyone that has been listening to the pod for a while, you know that one of our proudest partners since the start of 2023 has been Inclusion Crowd. So if you sometimes skip through the little sponsored bit, please don't. Have a little listen. It's only 30 seconds of my voice, but click through. We always share the links for Inclusion Crowd. I am very proud that I was the sort of facilitator to introduce Energize Group to Inclusion Crowd and Ed Jervis. So just go back a step. I mean, we probably might need to go back a few steps actually, but as a business, you have absolutely elevated yourself in terms of the policies, the culture of DEI and what it means. To talk us through why you did this in the first place, and then how you've done it, and then what the impact's been. We just want to know the whole journey, because everybody's talking about it, but you have literally transformed what it means as a recruitment business.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's been probably one of the most impactful things and the most proudest things that I've been a part of, and had the kind of privilege to be a part of as well. And you know, big shout out to Mel, who's our head of people and culture, who we worked very closely with this, along with Ed Jervis, who's brilliant, of Inclusion Crowd, and our senior management team. But I think our journey, Mel and I have always had a passion for it. I mean, my personal journey is something, it's always been very important to me. My mum was disabled. I grew up in a small town just outside of Brighton. Unfortunately, I witnessed and heard things that weren't particularly nice. And so from a very kind of young age, I always, you know, had this kind of vision of an equitable society. And so having that perspective and then being able to help shape that in a workplace is you know, I'm very lucky to be able to do that. And I think the reason why I'm saying this is I think DE&I has to come from a place of authenticity. And this is where Ed has been brilliant. He's cut through the noise. He said, it's not a tick box exercise. This is not about at the end of X and such a day, you can have this, and this. You know, it needs to mean something. So he's almost reverse engineered it in the right way. And that's what we've tried to do. So our journeys come with, right, what needs to happen? It needs to be authentic. It needs to be not just a people and culture, you know, driven exercise. It needs to come from, you know, senior managers, directors, all the operating board, all the people that matter. And that starts with education. And that comes what's seriously lacking. I think there's a common misconception where you know, people might be doing or saying things that might be deemed inappropriate. And I don't think it's because of these people are necessarily just in general bad people. I just think that's a bit of a common misunderstanding and lack of awareness, I think. And that's what we've tried to do. we've tried to start with a top-down, as top-down strategy, working with the senior leadership team, having workshops, building the education, and then setting some softer targets. Closing the gender balance was a big one for us.
Yes,
we did
definitely.
very well. We focus in getting more women into senior managerial positions. This is work in progress for us. We're better, but we're nowhere near where we should be. And this is one thing about DE&I. It's almost like it's a journey. You have to go on it. You don't. It's
you're not going from A to B at all. It's just like you say, it's starting A every time, isn't it?
Exactly. And there's things that we've done that, I think, things that I'm particularly proud of. We collected all the diversity data last year, so we got all the protected characteristics and the breakdown of everyone across the group. We've got employee resource groups on mental health, DE&I, charity. We put people through a license to recruit course, so people are now qualified, and that includes our talent acquisition lead. So we're focusing on data.
Yes.
And our next step now is we're doing a data pilot where we're looking at who we're reaching internally to see what pool of candidates that we're trying to attract to our business, and saying, is that casting the net wide enough? So we're trying to collect that data. And then what we're doing, and this is the bit that I'm really excited about, and this is where Ed's been, kind of part of this journey from the start, is that, we're starting to become thought leaders in this space. Our clients have started coming to us, Mel's advising clients on what we're doing. So actually the value that we're adding now to our clients and our community is massive. And we're not saying we're perfect, but what we're doing is, look, this is our journey. Let's have a chat about it. How are you doing? What are you doing? And it just really helps with supporting our clients as well. So I'm really proud of it. And honestly, it's just a privilege to be a part of.
And do you know what? That last bit, I'm covered. I mean, I was covered in goosebumps when you shared that about your mum and your upbringing. And thank you for sharing something so personal and vulnerable with us. But that last bit, if you are listening to this now and you are a recruitment leader and you have done the tick box with mental health, with diversity and inclusion, with menopause, with menstruation, with any of these things, please stop the tick boxing. This is something that is so meaningful to every single person in your workplace. But then think about what Kieran's just said. Commercially, you become the educator of your clients. It just, the impact this can have on the entire working world is phenomenal, because us as recruiters, there are 30,000 recruitment companies in the UK alone. If each of us does something today to create a safe space where somebody's going to feel included and is educated by someone like Inclusion Crowd, think about the impact we can have on the whole working population. It's just, to me, it blows my mind.
Yeah, it's incredible. And look, I think, and although it's nowhere near where this needs to be for me, but I do think there's some really encouraging signs. The fact that it's now part of the conversation, businesses are speaking about it. The execution of it might be questionable, but at least we're having a conversation about it, which is a big step forward to where we were 5 years ago.
Most definitely. And for me, if I look at something altruistically and very, very objectively, the role of the recruitment consultant is like everything, because of AI, is in a state of evolution. And part of that evolution is us ourselves removing this sales hat and seeing us as true consultants. And in order to be a true consultant, you need to be educated in things that are impacting the human beings that you're taking on a journey, whether that's your hiring client or whether it's your candidate. So you are literally walking and talking that evolution, but you will be the business that will still be around in 10 years' time, because you've done it ahead of the curve. That's what's exciting, isn't it, Kieran?
Oh, absolutely. And we're a better business for it now. We'll be an even better business for it 5 years down the line. Yeah,
and I know you're so passionate about it, and it's so contagious how passionate you are about it. And Mel's been on; she came on a show at the start of 2023 with Ed. We actually ran a live. God, I don't know if I could do that again. I'm saying that I'm actually running a live event in real life, which I'll have to tell you about. Which Ed's going to come and speak at. But she was amazing, and she shared a lot of this data. And to have senior leadership team, like you say, you've got so many people in your business that are truly transforming their own lives, but also the lives and impact of everyone else. So, but commercially speaking, you're having an impact, presumably, and it's improving your performance because those clients are trusting you on so many different levels.
Absolutely. And, if you look at it, if you've got someone that's, I don't know, a CEO of a business who doesn't necessarily want to buy into it, but if you can start talking about the commercial benefits of it, then I think it has a bigger impact. That might not be the right way of going about it, but again, at least it's better to be in that position and have someone having the freedom to do that in a business than not.
Yeah,
so,
totally agree. Now, I'm going to steal a little bit of a line here from one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to, which is the High Performance Podcast. And in fact, I still boast about it, even though it's over 2 years ago, that Damien Hughes came on my podcast. He came on the Recruiters Group. If you go right back in the archive, you'll find him on there. He was amazing. He was absolutely delightful. And one of the things that they asked their guests at the start is what's their definition of high performance. So I do want to throw that to you, because you do class yourselves as, you are the home of high performance. So first of all, how do we know whether somebody is high performing? And secondly, what does that actually mean to you as a business?
What does high performing mean to us as a business? I think, that is being the very best version of yourself and absolutely fulfilling your potential, I think. And that's all we ask for. People will be at different levels in terms of the amounts they can bill or capability. Some will bill more than others, but just be the very best person that you can be and feel your potential and give, every day give your best. I think is how I would kind of define it, and our mantra in our business. And we've had a mindset shift over the last 2 to 3 years or so. We wanted to move to a high performance business. We wanted to be known for that, because we wasn't, and we had to create that and worked very hard to almost get to that point. And we could be better. We could be much better. But that's how we feel. We always want to strive for improvement.
I find that fascinating, because I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it's very subjective. Actually, it's a really subjective thing, isn't it? Like, to some people listening, they might think, well, high performance to me means someone that's billing it in excess of 500 grand a year or whatever. But actually, that's just one component. That's just measuring their actual outputs. What about their behaviors? What about their interactions? What about how they are educating? I mean, to me, to be seen as a thought leader, to be so highly regarded that your community is trusting you, I mean, you can't buy that. You can't buy that. You can't suddenly buy the best website. You can't buy that position. That's created because you are fulfilling your potential as a human being. They say, don't they, that, because I listen to a plethora of podcasts, including Jay Shetty, and the whole kind of the deathbed concept, and they interview nurses that sit with people as they are in their final hours, and no one ever regrets not spending more time at work or trying to make more money. It's all around being their best selves and living their best life. So I love that that's how you see it as a business.
I've taken quite a lot out of his book, Think Like a Monk, which is brilliant. I think you read it. It's
amazing.
It's actually a bit of a life-changing book for me. But it's there's a lot around that, isn't there? Purpose and self-worth, and that feeding into maximizing your potential.
But I think that given that you've done 17 years, you're coming up for nearly 20 years. I know you've been, but if anyone's watching, he's being blinded by the sun. Possibly that's like some kind of spirituality going on. But I think it's just bless you. I know he's like hiding in the corner. And we do actually have sunshine in Manchester for those that are listening. I think that there's been such a shift in the last 20 years in terms of, as an industry, how we want to be perceived. And that it isn't about who's going to come in and make us the most money. It's actually having this framework around values and purpose and principles and integrity and ethics and all the next layers, which is around the diversity, inclusion, mental health, and that flexibility and supporting people. It actually allowing people to, giving them this platform to just go and be their best self safely. I got so excited I've nearly put my headphones out here. I do think that you should, how businesses should aspire to be like.
What you said right there is probably something that really resonates with me, because you can go, look, fundamentally people go into this sector to get accelerated career progression, to want to work in a client and candidate facing role, and have that opportunity to earn quite a lot of money quickly. I think that shouldn't change, I think, because that attracts the right sort of people to our industry. Albeit I think it's nuanced now, and I think what we try and do is we try and bring in all the other bits, the well-being, the purpose, what are we here, what's our why, and that then feeds into that intrinsic motivation that I think is really, really important, because someone can go and do the job anywhere, right? So then if we get that bit right, and we don't get it perfect, if you get that bit right, then you create that engagement, you get that glue, your attrition levels go down, you've got more chance of having sustained growth. So there's lots of advantages to it. And I'm glad. I think the staffing industry the reputation is changing and improving. I think we're now becoming more recognised and respected, which I think is a good thing.
100%. And it's the ones that are all the things that you've just described that won't be replaced by an AI or a robot. And obviously it's all about the human using the technology. We know that now. But I totally agree with you. I think we're at a really exciting stage in our evolution. And it's down to companies like you. It is as simple as that. And that's why I really was so keen to get you on. So thank you for giving your time to us today to do that.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And it's, it's really nice to get to know the business better. And I'm sure that if anyone wants to get in touch, we'll make sure your contact information's on there. And we'll also be tagging Ed Jervis in for the inclusion crowd. If any of you are interested, then please drop me a line, or Kieran or Mel, and I'm sure they'll be happy to give some insight. So thank you so much for joining us on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast.